Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Gooner Ramble podcast. I'm your host, Jasper, and tonight we've got Judd. Say hello, Judd.
Oh, hello, Judd.
Lost you for a minute there.
Yeah.
Are you back?
Unfortunately, yeah, I don't really feel like being on tonight, but, you know.
Losing the will to live, that's the problem.
Yeah.
And, of course, we've also got regular James. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. Feeling
Still alive?
upbeat, smiling, can't be happier.
So, we had a bit of a stinker today, which is a bit hard to explain, because the summer had felt pretty good. Okay, we haven't bought the players we all need yet, but we have bought a top-class player that made everybody feel positive, picked up the morale of the team, and then we went out and won all the pre-season trophies, which was just fabulous. And Petr played 3 games and won 3 trophies, and it was all looking rosy in the garden. We had all kinds of fantastic talent. We got Jeff Ren Adelaide coming through. Everything looked great. And then all of a sudden, that happened. Any ideas why, James?
For me, first and foremost, is alright, I know you said talk about players later, but Hector Bellerin was injured, so I can't moan at that, but why change the winning side that finally beat Chelsea? Why switch that up? Why put Giroud back in? For me today, West Ham, the minute we were in the tunnel lining up, you could obviously see the height of every single one of them that was in there. Big, strong guys, and you know, credit to West Ham, credit to Slaven Bilic, they were getting a lot of bookings, they've had a lot of sending-offs throughout their Europa League campaign, which has sadly ended for them, but they got stuck in, and we don't like teams that do that to Arsenal. I still feel, apart from Coquelin and a few others, we're very soft in that aspect. We don't like teams that come at us and give us a few kick-ins and lump-ins, and do you know what, I think it was just totally wrong as well to start, you know, on their day, you've got the second, possibly maybe the first best centre midfield partnership in Coquelin and Cazorla next to Matic and Fabregas. Yet today you put Ramsey in the centre to start with, and then he had Cazorla out wide. And then obviously towards the latter end of the games, Ramsey moved out wide and Cazorla moved back into the middle. But why do that? Why when you've got natural wingers at your disposal, would you go ahead and do that? Alright, you know, Sanchez obviously couldn't start the game and whatnot. But, you know, for me, I posted my lineup on our Twitter page, and that's who I believe we should have gone with. I really think we should have had Theo starting on the wing, and or even up front, given Giroud the day off. I think when you look at it, people go, oh, but Walcott is so good when he comes on because of his pace. But I think Giroud's better when he comes off on the bench. I think Walcott to start, have him running ragged from the beginning. And then once they get a bit tired and, you know, that's when you can start pumping the balls into Giroud if Giroud comes on, you know, 65, 70 minutes.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. We're going to actually talk about the lineup in a minute and how it was rearranged and who should or shouldn't have started. We're going to go into all that. But, I mean, my impression from the game was, yes, you know, there were mistakes like that, but you can always argue. But for me, it seemed to be something bigger than that, in the sense that the whole team just looked off the pace. And people are going to say, oh, you're making up excuses. But I really do think that the fact that the season started early played a part in it, because we weren't sharp enough yet. And you could say, oh, what about West Ham? But they've been playing for a month. According to the commentator, they've been playing European games for a month. And to me, it was just obvious that they were so much sharper. All their passes found each other. You know, they were saying the new kid, Reece Oxford, had a 95% completion rate. I don't know if any of our players did, but, you know, everybody's first touch was bad and everybody's finishing chances weren't taken. And it just seemed like, you know, people weren't themselves. You know, we weren't stroking it about with the one-touch play the way we can. It just wasn't. We didn't seem to be to use the old Wenger phrase, they were sharper than us. I just thought they were on the game and awake. And I know, okay, you could say he probably played a different lineup when they got knocked out of Europe on Thursday, but a lot of the same players have had to play these European games, and he's rotated them. But they just seem to be really ready for this day, whereas we seem to be a little bit still in pre-season mode. And the last 10 minutes, we look quite tired. So that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. But what did you reckon, Judd?
I don't know. I don't know how much I buy into that. They've been playing more competitive matches and whatnot. I mean, we've been playing too. We've been in training for the same amount of time. We've got basically the same 11 that we finished the last season with, plus Czech. He's the one piece that I thought for a long time that we needed. My expectations going into the match were that we just kick on with the way that we've been playing all summer and that we finished last year with. And, it just, the mistakes that we were making were just so odd, because even during the preseason, it's not like we were struggling to complete, uncontested passes like we were today, just building the ball up out of our defense, passing it out wide. We were passing it 10 yards in front of people out of bounds. I think we did that like close to half a dozen times. That's just amateur mistakes. Everybody, bar maybe Ox, looked completely out of it today. And it just was odd, and I can't say that it was solely because of West Ham. I mean, they did do a good job getting stuck in and trying to disrupt our game, but at the same time, there were times when they weren't even really, pressuring us and we were making mistakes. It was just an all-around, just dire performance from everybody. And, it's one of those that's just, you struggle to find a reason why. Like, there's no explaining it.
Yeah, there are a few times we actually passed the ball out of play. You expect that once a game. It happened about 5 times, and
yeah,
if it's not to do with West Ham, which I take your point, some of those passes weren't even under pressure, then what the hell happened? It was like we'd had a dodgy lasagna, because we weren't doing that against Chelsea.
That's as good an explanation as any.
Yeah, honestly,
it's that typical.
I was really surprised by what I saw.
It's that typical thing, isn't it, where I've seen it so many years that we get a good result, and let's be fair, people can call it a tin pot trophy, they can call it a turkey dish, whatever you want to call it. that was a big result last week, because you could tell Chelsea wanted that bad. You saw John Terry's face, you saw Mourinho after the game. They were angry that they lost that. They were not happy. And then we get the typical, and I'll say it, even me as a fan, I was naive. I had Chris Akabusi on the other day telling him we're going to beat him 3-0. I went out last night. I had a few, SoCo lemonades telling all the West Ham fans in town, we're going to smash you 3-0 tomorrow. And, we started off thinking we were Bobby Big Bollocks, and it looked like Timmy Tiny Testes. We just got humiliated. We really went about it. I think them lot went out there today and thought we'll stroll this, and they got bloody embarrassed.
Yeah. It does happen sometimes, doesn't it? You beat a big club like Chelsea and you think, that's it, no, we're the best, we've done it, and you think, well, West Ham, we always give them a good old pasting. We've had some great games there recently, great goals from Giroud and all the rest, and we just kind of assumed the same thing would happen, and maybe the players did too. They just turned up, thought they could win just by turning.
All that hard work from last week had just gone to complete and utter shit, basically, for me today. It just all went wrong from start to finish.
Yeah.
For me, the most aggravating part is we've been on the wrong end of these kind of results because of our complacency or whatever you want to call it. So we should have learned by now that you can't do that, especially in this league. Every game is tight enough. You can't afford to go out there and think you're going to be able to just coast along and get a result. It's beyond frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about the lineup then specifically, because several changes. Bellerin, as you mentioned, James, was out because he picked up I think what was a fairly minor injury. So Debussy went in, and he did a decent job, but I did feel like we missed Bellerin at times. We missed his pace and his creativity in the final third. But it's not all about one player. And then also Theo started on the bench, as you mentioned. Ramsey starting next to Coquelin, which was an odd one. And then later on they switched around, didn't they? And they put Cazorla back next to Coquelin, where I feel like he belongs. and the other obvious change is checking goal. But what did you make of the lineup, Judd?
Yeah, I mean, basically like what James was saying, it was kind of unexpected. You know, you would think that we'd stick with what was working throughout the summer. You know, I know that, you know, the Community Shield was really the only quote-unquote competitive match that we've had, but, you know, we've been playing so well. The team played well in that match. Why change it? You know, I mean, bar the necessary changes. I'm not as fussed about who starts up top between Giroud and Walcott, who's coming off the bench, because I think they both have a big impact in different ways. So that was probably more to do with, you know, the physicality of playing against a team like West Ham that Wenger decided to go with Giroud. I don't know if I would have left them both on or not. I guess at that point, I think it's half a dozen of one, six of another. You know, either way, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. And we were struggling to even string together 4 passes all day anyhow. But yeah, I'd leave Santi in the middle. I think he's better out there. And Ramsey's been showing, you know, even at the end of last year, he's been playing great out wide. Why move it around? Why change it up? You know, and especially with a 16-year-old starting in the middle for the opposition. I mean, come on, man. You got an experienced head like Santi playing against him. Let him torment him all day. You know.
I agree, and I think I didn't mind Giroud starting ahead of Theo at all because you know the majority of last season he was the main man, and it was only Theo. He played the last few games, and yes, he was brilliant, but that's not a reason to necessarily permanently bench Giroud. And as you say, we are playing against bigger players, so get him back up there, and you know we can always bring Theo on, and we can pick and choose. According to who we're playing against, and against West Ham, I would have started with Giroud, so I didn't have a problem with that. But the sort of Coughlin-Cazorla combo, I think, is a great one. I wouldn't have buggered about with that. But I think he was trying to get Ox on the wing, wasn't he? And trying to tinker about with it. We didn't have Jack, so he's ended up putting Cazorla on one wing, hasn't he? And Ramsey, next to Coquelin, it didn't quite. Anyway, James.
Yeah, well, the minute that Tompkins got booked, because he's a centre half playing at right back, he should have been tormented the whole game, and he just got a day off really. Because every time we did pick it up on the wing, Cazorla and Ramsey, they're not going to try and run down the channel and cross the ball in from the side. They were just drifting, cutting inside and taking shots, which, be fair to Ramsey, all right, I thought he had a piss poor game, and he is one of them players where when he has a bad game, it's highlighted because of how talented he is. But he had 2 chances from range that nearly, they were nearly there. At least he was having a go. But my God, yeah, like we said, I just don't know why you change your winning team. And for me, I can see where you're coming from with Giroud. Got no problems whatsoever in that aspect. I think, all right, he's not, at that level that I want him to be, but he was more than capable of, that team that we played out there is more than capable of beating West Ham for me, but obviously I was wrong.
Oh, they are capable, definitely.
Yeah.
But there was something weird going on with the team, and I think if we played them again at the end of the season, or even just in 10 games time when we warmed up, we'd smash them. But it was something, we just weren't there.
It's like what you said in the WhatsApp, where you said we could play for another half here, we still wouldn't score.
Yeah.
None of it was coming off at all, and it was just all the constant, I sat there like, do we really have to do 40 passes before someone, just pulls the bloody trigger? I'm like, for God's sake. It took about 75 minutes for that Adrian to make a save from Chamberlain anyway, from his leg.
Yeah, we did. We never looked like scoring, and we're famous for wanting to walk the ball in, and that game was a classic example. And the one that made me sort of cringe was Cazorla. He made some space, on the left-hand side. He carved out a great opportunity to shoot. Instead of shooting from the edge of the box, he went sideways, tried to get a bit more space, and went sideways again, and tried to get a little bit closer, and in the end, he just lost the ball. But with his first, at the first instance, he was there and he'd got between defenders and only had the goalie to beat. Okay, he's on the edge of the area, but he didn't need to keep dribbling. I didn't get that. And everybody was passing and nobody was shooting. It was driving me insane.
Well, it was like Giroud as well. Giroud, second half, I know I'm sort of jumping the gun a bit, but he did this great little move, and then he's thinking he's Thierry Henry cutting in on the left, and he put a cross in. And it's like, that's meant to be you in the box, you div, right?
Yeah, but then nobody got in there, did they?
Yeah.
That was the one when Ozil sort of arrived 10 minutes late. But normally now you've got Ramsey bombing in.
He shouldn't be the one pinging the balls in, though. I'm like, why are you cutting in like that and doing all this? I'm like, that's not your game. Stay where you're meant to be. It was so, honestly, the whole game was frustrating. It was so bad. Like, I agree with Judd. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain's probably the only one that could hold his head high. But then again, second goal, him and Coquelin, that was an absolute piss up. I don't know what they were doing there.
Yeah.
They were just in no man's land, and then, we'll come to individuals in a minute, but oh my God, I was just like, what the hell is this? And then when he gets moved into right back as well, fair play to him, because I've never known him to play that role the whole time he's been at Arsenal, and even when he was at Southampton, I've never known him to play as a right back. I could be proven wrong. If someone can find it, please let me know, but credit to him, he done his job in there, and like I said, he was the only one trying, really, for me. I don't think anybody... He was the only one causing problems as well. He really was causing West Ham a lot of problems, first half and second half, and then, just the rest of them just weren't on his level.
Yeah, going back to what you said about Ramsey as well, I find that when he has a bad game, we rarely win, because he's basically, everything goes through him. So if he makes a bad touch, a bad pass, or a shot that ends up in row Z, then that's the way the game's going to go, because he's kind of central to everything. And the same thing happens with Cazorla, because he's controlling the whole lot, and he's making 158 passes or whatever. So if something goes wrong there, then the whole game suffers. But, on the Ox, he was the only one really showing promise. But at the same time, I do get frustrated with him sometimes. And I know it's pre-season and everything, but what annoys me a bit is that he can go on these unbelievable runs and go around 7 or 8 players, but then there's no end product. And I don't mean in terms of goals. I mean just something useful. So either a great cross that's just begging to be put in, or ends up getting put in, a great pass, a great cutback, or a goal, any of those. But what seems to happen a lot is he goes on this unbelievable run, and then his pass goes to nobody, or the cross hits the first man, or the shot goes over the top. The run is fantastic to watch, but it has to then create something. Do you know what I mean? It's just... Yeah. He shows so much promise, but it doesn't actually impact on the game very much, because it's just a brilliant run and a brilliant dribble. And he scored the winning goal against Chelsea, not taking that away from him. But even in that game and in other games last season before he got injured, he would do something that gets everyone on the edge of their seat, and then they all go, because it doesn't actually, nothing happens at the end of it. Do you know what I mean? And that's just my one criticism of him, that sometimes he runs so fast that the ball gets away from him, and then someone takes it away easily. If you're going to run at that kind of Theo Walcott pace, you've got to keep the ball closer to you. I know it's bloody hard to do, but he just, to me, it sometimes gives the ball away in stupid situations. I mean, you talk about the goal today. There was also that time against, was it Monaco? Yeah. Last season. These times when he gets caught in possession, they take the ball off him so easily, and bang, and we're on the back foot. He's got to just tighten up his game a little bit, just to make that change, and he'll be unbelievable. But anyway, other players, what did you reckon, Judd? I thought Ozil wasn't great. Nobody was great. Ramsey wasn't great.
Yeah. It really was a full squad disappointment. Like I was saying, bar Ox, I don't think anybody even was a shadow of themselves, their normal game. Even Ox had a couple moments where you're just like when he lost the ball before the second goal, But the most disappointing part about that is you see him turn the ball over, and then everybody just kind of stood and just watched and let Zarate take that shot. It's like, come on, guys. And then Czech, I don't know what he was doing on that. I guess into his left, I suppose. And then, the free kick for the first goal, he's late coming out or doesn't get there. But then on top of that, as you look at it, Copeland's playing everybody on. He's 3 yards further back than the rest of the defensive line. Mertz is like a half step behind him, and then there's a big gap. You're either everybody's got to hold the line or everybody's got to come back. You can't let people just be run free behind your line on a free kick like that. It was just stupidity and utterly frustrating. Passing was off by everybody. We had a couple little jinky moves down the left side at the beginning of the game before the first goal, but after that, it seemed like everything just kind of fell apart. And I don't even know where to start individually, honestly. Just name everybody, I guess.
Yeah. Coquelin didn't even win a tackle today, guys. Didn't even win a tackle. Yeah.
Is it me or has anyone else getting slightly worried about him? Because, last season he was unbelievable. I mean, if he had Coccolino on the back of his shirt and he cost 35 million, everybody would have said he was the buy of the season. He was just so good. And then, I know we've only had a few games of pre-season, so I'm probably jumping the gun, but I'm getting slightly paranoid that he's about to do a song. And what I mean by that, he's about to get, full of himself, listen to his own praise, and then start drifting further and further up the pitch and trying to put these fantastic Hollywood balls through into people's laps, the way that Song started to do. Remember when he put balls over the top for Van Persie to score volleys against Everton and again against Liverpool, and Song started to become this unbelievable attacking midfielder and forgot to protect the back, but Coquelin's a policeman, as Thierry says, and I want him to stay like that. And there's a couple of times a game today I thought, well, where are you going? Where are you going? Don't get involved in the attack. I don't care what the scoreline is. Your job is to protect the back four. And I remember Thierry last season on Sky saying, look at him, you see that? He passed the ball forward, turns around, walks away, turns his back on the play. And you watch Coquelin just walk off. And he went straight back to Mertesacker. And today I thought, where's he going? He's drifting forward. He's trying to put through these Hollywood balls. They weren't coming off. And I just want him to just do exactly what he did the second half of last season, not fuck about trying to help any attacking players. And I'm getting, I know I've only seen him in a few games. I hope I'm not jumping the gun. But if he starts becoming another Alex Song, I'll be pretty gutted.
I don't think you need to worry in that aspect. I just think today everyone was just off the boil, and he was probably thinking, look, none of these are creating something. Someone's got to do something, and that's the thing with him. Even though he's still quite young, he is one of the only passionate guys in that team. I feel Mertesacker's a leader at times. Sheck, we all know how old and mature and stuff he is. He can be considered a leader, but none of them today. Really, being brought up on people like Adams and Vieira, they want to take the game by the scruff of the neck. I didn't see anyone out there today, apart from in a small glimpse of Monreal towards the end of the game. If you can all lip read at home what he says when that guy's not the time wasted on that throwing.
Yeah.
he was one of the only ones that's like, come on.
You didn't need to lip read. You could hear it through the telly.
Yeah. But honestly, it just lacked. And another thing that's really, really, getting on my nerves is with all this transfer talk and everything. Everybody's going, get a striker, get Benzema. They're all prepared to upset the balance of Giroud, Walcott or Welbeck. Yet everyone goes, you can't sign a defensive midfielder because it will upset Coquelin. Why? Why can't you do both? What is someone tell me why? Because I look at it this way, right? Jose Mourinho has got Diego Costa and Remy, two very good on their day strikers, yet he still went out there and signed Falcao because he wants to win.
Yeah.
Why can't we also go out there and buy a defensive midfielder that's just as good as Coquelin or just young enough to do a job like Coquelin? This is what I hate. Oh no, you can't upset him. Oh God, no, you can't do that. It'll knock his confidence back. And no, it won't.
That's rubbish. He'll work harder.
Yeah,
he'll fight harder.
Exactly my point, Jasper.
And also, that maybe they're thinking on the lines of, if we buy some world-class DM that costs 40 million, then we obviously have to start him because we paid that much and it's not fair to bench Coquelin. Well, yeah, I can kind of see where they're coming from, but you don't need to do that, because Coughlin is the £40 million DM. All you need is cover for him. So all you need is somebody, when he's injured or tired or suspended, you need someone to come in who's very similar to him, maybe a young apprentice, maybe someone who's only 22, 23, who can come along and do that when he's not there. Let him be the star, let him be the main starter, and someone come along and just cover him. That's all. You don't need to go out and buy the best DM in the world, because then he will end up getting benched, which isn't fair. So but even if you did do that, if you went out and bought a really expensive one who's unbelievable, they can still rotate. All those strikers at Chelsea you mentioned, they understand that they got to fight for their place, and they relish the fight. And if they didn't want to fight, they wouldn't have signed. They're signing for a club that's already got two great strikers. So, they know before they put pen to paper, they have to fight for their place.
Exactly. And I mean, you look today at West Ham, full credit where credit is due. They were absolutely head and shoulders above us today. I mean, that Payet, or Payet, whatever you want to call him, he looked magnificent. He looked like Cristiano Ronaldo out there today. I don't know if it was us flattering him. He was superb. And then that Reece Oxford, he's not even a DM, he's a centre-back. He's 16 years old. He's going to have to sit at the back of the pub in a corner today and have his mum and dad still buy him his pints.
Yeah.
He ain't even got GCSEs, and he schooled Ozil. He schooled him. Oh my God.
Ozil was really
like
bad.
An amateur. He really did. He took him to pillar to post. And I was listening to a bit of Stan Collymore and stuff on TalkSport today, and he said, this Oxford was communicating with Reed and the other centre-halves and the rest of the defenders, and yet no one at Arsenal was talking. None of them in the back are talking, trying to walk. None of them are organising anything. And he's like, why is this 16-year-old kid more composed and everything like that than a settled back four that Arsenal have? Because that was a makeshift back four for West Ham. They would, if they could have, they would have started Jenkinson at right back. They weren't going to start Tompkins out there.
Yeah.
And yet, like I said earlier, just did not exploit the holes and weaknesses that they had.
It's a good question. Good question about the communication, but I mean, Ozil, as I said, had a bad game anyway, because I didn't see him drop a shoulder once. Normally his dribbling is so comfortable. He just drifts past people, creating space, but he didn't seem to dribble. He just passed all the time. He didn't want to go past anyone, and he's another one I'm slightly worried about, because he finished the last season on fire. And what I've seen him in pre-season, he's been a shadow of himself. So maybe he'll hit form, like in 10 games time when he gets his sharpness and his fitness back. But at the moment, he just didn't look. Today, he didn't look himself at all. But anyway, whilst we're naming individual players, we can't possibly do that without mentioning our new signing, Petr Cech. So, Judd,
yes.
How do we pick that one apart?
Oh boy, yeah, it was disappointing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Hopefully those are his two mistakes for the season, because he usually doesn't make a whole lot more than that, historically. But yeah, those were both pretty poor. I don't think it's fair to place all of the blame on his shoulders, because I thought the defense had massive letdowns to lead to both of those. But yeah, not getting that ball when you come out, and that was just schoolboy error. And then the shot, man, I don't know what he was doing, just got cement boots or something, just rooted to his spot and looked like a fool.
When I watched the replay, he seemed to be going the other way, and I think he kind of assumed that this shot was going to the far post, and then the guy almost sort of
can't do that
shot. Yeah,
you can't do that at that level. I mean, especially from a shot that distance, you're going to have plenty of time to react to the shot. Once you see where it's going. And I don't know, maybe he was cited by, I think it was Mertz that was standing in front of him. I don't know. I can't remember. Don't recall. But it didn't look like it looked like he had a good view of it. So I don't know. But that was poor. That was poor. And then I was watching Fabianski play earlier. Oh man. No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. I'd still rather.
Are you saying come back, Fabianski, all is forgiven? Is that what you're saying?
No.
The YouTube listeners are going to love that.
I don't know. It's just, I'm hoping it was just an off day. He looked good in the preseason. I know he wasn't tested that frequently in the preseason, but he looked good.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a whole lot to worry about.
No.
And Oh yeah, absolutely. You
Because
don't
because
expect to
that's
see
that's the
that.
guy. When any star player makes a debut, you want him to, if
Yeah,
it's a
make their
midfielder or
mark.
striker, you want him to score on the first
Yeah,
game. You want him to do something amazing. Go, wow, look what we bought. And his first game,
has
he
two
makes
power.
errors, and it was
Yeah.
just like, well, that wasn't what's meant to happen. Who's meant to make like an incredible match-winning save, today, not do
Yeah,
that.
and I know it's the first game of the season, and everybody's up for it. Everybody's excited and expecting to see a lot. And I think it's important that we remember that it is just one. I hate saying that because I was just on the podcast during the preseason saying it's so important that we start well, and then here we are, 5 days later talking about how well it's just one match. But in the grand scheme of things, it really is, and hopefully they are able to move on. And next week against Palace, it's time to go. But it does put a little bit more pressure on them because now they have to get a result. Because we can't start like we did last year. Last year the season was lost in the first 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right in both counts really, because it is very important that we have a good start. But at the same time, one poor game doesn't constitute a bad start. If we draw the next one, lose the one after, then that's a terrible
Then it's time
start.
to start worrying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be knee-jerk myself, but at the same time, it just feels like every season at Arsenal, we don't until Christmas. It don't click. Like we play Christmas to May, and the season starts in August, boys.
Yeah, we always seem to have a sour patch somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, but it really it just really winds me up, and I don't know about you, but next week against Palace, I'm quite concerned. Because we don't play well when there's an atmosphere, when the fans are on your back. We don't take that very well. And then Palace fans are the best in the league at home. And they played very, very well yesterday, especially Kabay. And I'm like, I think last season we struggled there. We just about scraped it last season. I reckon it's going to be very, very nervy next week. I mean, I ain't got no fingernails at the moment, so God knows what's going to happen next week.
Yeah.
Might have to try and put my toes in my mouth again.
Well, something's got to happen between now and then. I mean, because they were all off the pace, and I don't know whether they need a rest or they need to be pushed harder, but physically. But something wasn't right, and the fact that we're so desperate to score, we had to bring on Sanchez, who I didn't think would even be on the bench.
Poor bastard.
Yeah,
I felt so sorry for him.
Well, he was terrible as well, understandably, because he literally, he been back in training 2 days or something? I mean, he must have been still full of tequilas or whatever he's been drinking on holiday, I mean,
we had to roll the dice, didn't we? But I said it on Twitter, and people laughed. He's about as fit as me being on the Hollyoaks calendar this Christmas. Do you know what I mean? Honest to God, I just felt so sorry for the guy, and he is that kind of person though. If he's got his leg dangling off, he's still going to try.
Yeah,
you're going to have to kill him before he gets off the pitch. But honestly,
he probably paid the boss to play, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a bit like when we said earlier before we started recording about that Villa game, when we had Cazorla on after he'd just played a friendly for Spain against like Ecuador or whatever. He'd literally got off the plane like 18 or something hours before or something ridiculous, and then we threw him in. It just reminded me of that, really. It was just like, well, we're desperate. Do you know what I mean? We got fuck all else, so let's try. And yeah, it didn't pay off, but as we saw the pictures of him after the game running and apologising about the result and everything, so hopefully he comes in against Palace next week and he'll be ready. And I don't want to rely on him as much as we did last year. Last year I think he got us out of jail so many times, but hopefully,
I don't think he'll be ready in a week though. I mean, he's had no pre-season. Pre-season's normally 3 or 4 weeks, isn't it? So
yeah,
he's not going to be. He might make the bench next week, but he's not going to be starting.
Do you not think so? I think if he doesn't start him, I think the fans will go a bit loopy.
Well, they're being stupid then. I mean, you can't, you saw how out of shape he was, and not so much his fitness, but his touch was terrible. He got through on goal and then just scuffed it, and it rolled meekly into the keeper's hands. I mean, that's not Sanchez. The power of that shot in the FA Cup, I mean, that was absolutely blistering, 128 miles an hour, whatever it was. I mean, that's what he can shoot at, and terrible scuff today. I mean, he's miles off the pace. He to get to the point where we would actually want to start him, he'd have to have probably 4 competitive games, and he's not even close to that. You know, he can't. He'd need to have. He'd need to play in the reserves all week or something. You know, or with the under 21s. You can't get him to full match fitness in a week from just coming back from his holiday. That's physically impossible. I think if you started him now, the fans would be even more annoyed because he'd miss everything, he'd scuff everything. It would be a disaster. You know, you've got to stick with the people who are looking sharp. You know, the Oxlade-Chamberlains and the Theo Walcotts, and those are the people that need to start the games. The people that have had all the pre-season and come back from their holidays on time, or if not early. You know, I definitely wouldn't start Sanchez next week. But it's not up to me. Anyway, you mentioned you had a couple of questions. James?
Yeah, we got a few. One of them is just quite bluntly, it's from Batzor. He just pretty much goes, "Why are we shit?"
Why are we so shit?
I think we went through it quite a bit. But
well, that kind of covers the attitude of the fans today.
Yeah.
The reactions afterwards, Jesus.
Yeah. And then the second question we got is from Sammy239, and he said, "Should we start worrying more about teams like West Ham this year and take these teams more seriously?" Well, I think, Judd, you summed it up earlier in the podcast perfectly. This is the Premier League. You know, you can't take anybody for granted. On their day, anybody could beat anybody. Like, I hate to sound cliche, but for me, you know, I wouldn't underestimate, you know, Bournemouth or any of the ones that have been promoted.
Watford.
Because, yeah, any of them. Because, you know, like I said, I thought, I was being a bit Bobby Big Bollocks myself. I thought we were going to steamroller this 3-0. And
think about
we got fucking embarrassed.
You watched the Stoke-Liverpool match today, and Stoke has got a guy that was just playing with Barcelona a few months ago. You know, this is the Premier League. Everybody's got talent. Everybody's capable of getting a result on any day. I mean, you can't take anybody for granted.
That's right, and now we've got more money than any other league, so the top talent's going to start coming to us, whether it's even to a dump like Stoke. You know, people will actually live in Stoke just so they can play Premier League football. That says it all.
You think they actually live there, though?
Well, actually, maybe they fly in from Barcelona every morning or something for training, fly out again by helicopter. But yeah, it's.
Well, that's the thing. So many different teams, you know, can compete in the Premier League. If you look at the other leagues, like Spain is 2-3 teams at best. France is 2 teams. Germany's probably 1 now. You know, it's foregone conclusion that Bayern will probably win it again.
Definitely.
Italy is just Juventus now. Like, all right, the Milan teams are strengthening, but exactly. But you know, the Premier League is the most competitive.
And actually, West Ham, you know, I was slightly concerned about them because not so much the players they bought, but because of Bilic, because we know he's good, and there was a time a couple of years ago when people were talking about Wenger leaving and who they'd replace him with, and somebody said, "Oh well, you know, if you ask Wenger, he would actually say Bilic because he knows him and he plays in the same kind of style as Wenger." And so that's where I'd heard his name before, is people thinking of him as actual possible replacement, as crazy as that may sound. So I thought, you know, West Ham will come there with this, all the players wanting to impress the new manager. They'll have new manager syndrome, and they got somebody that is completely different to Fat Sam, you know, somebody that is going to do things differently. And not just let us completely fuck them in the arse like Fat Sam did. So I kind of was worried about that. I was slightly concerned that we weren't going to play the same West Ham as we normally play. And it really, that sort of paranoia really came true. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've got another cracking question here from Adnan.
Good old Adnan.
As per, yeah, he's gone, do we actually have a plan B? We still try so hard to score the perfect goal and miss out. I can't agree more with him.
Yeah, I mean, today, I'll pass it over to you in a sec, Judd, but today I felt like West Ham were very good at flooding the penalty box. You know, when we got near them, they seemed to be like 6 centre-backs in there. And I don't remember that. It wasn't like they were parking the bus because they came at us and played. But when we camped in their half. They just absolutely riddled the box. And so every time we tried to take a shot or dribble round them, it was just swamped. It was like trying to dribble through a forest. And when that happens, we don't have a plan B. We need to start putting crosses in. We put a few in, and they all got cleared by West Ham. So, I don't know what the answer is. Judd, save us.
Building on that, I mean, the most frustrating thing for me was the fact that when we'd get the ball, we'd just walk it up the pitch. We'd give them time to get their shape defensively. It was so infuriating. Even with 5 minutes to play, we're doing that.
Yeah.
Let's show some urgency. That's the thing that really was, for me, I think one of the biggest contributors to our lack of success in the attack today. Just making it too easy for them. And I guess that's kind of been the thing for the last few years for defensives against us, is to just pack the box, let us pass it around on the perimeter, and we don't really attack the cross that well to begin with, so it takes that perfect ball to find Drew's meaty forehead for us to score. Or we're trying to do those little 3-yard 1-2 passes along the top of the box that come off maybe 1 in 50, and it's not a high percentage success rate when you're trying to attack that way, and it showed today. I think we had 3 shots on target, like we were saying. It took until the 60th, 70th minute.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the sort of quick 1-2 around the box. Jack Wilshere's great at that, playing off Giroud. But the problem is you can't do it when the box is completely swamped with players, because
and if that's our only approach, if that's a combination of that along with the counterattack, and you're keeping the defense guessing, but when they know that's all you're going to try to do, it has even less success.
Yeah.
We try and be the English Barcelona, and the thing is, at the end of all the Barcelona stuff, there's a bloke called Lionel, and he's not say you say me, he's Messi. We don't have that. We got a Giroud who, on his day, can be brilliant.
Sorry.
But exactly. But we haven't got that kind of player.
We're not richy enough to buy Messi.
Well, exactly, but
Sorry.
Oh, very good. It took me a while. I missed that.
It was quite poor. You're lucky you missed it.
Yeah, I'm normally sharp. It's just we've had a bad day. No, seriously. When we're trying all that tip tap stuff, you need a Messi or someone to bang them in. And at times, people know my opinion on Benzema. I'm not his biggest fan. I'm not a Benzema fan by any means. But if we're going to keep playing that tap fast paced football, then he's better at it than Giroud. So if we're going to buy him, then he'll be better suited for it.
Yeah, I mean, changing the subject slightly, we can go back to Adnan's question in a minute, but mentioned Benzema a couple of times. I don't watch Real Madrid very much, I must admit. I see him now and again, but can someone just clear this point up for me? Because everyone on Twitter keeps going on about Benzema, and when you think they've stopped talking about him, they start again a couple of days later. And what I don't understand is, why on earth would a team as rich, a club as rich as Real Madrid, and a team, as good as them, actually sell their main striker? I mean, the guy that finishes off all those chances. I mean, who have they got to replace him? They haven't got anyone, have they?
Good question. Main reason being is Real Madrid are in about 300 million in the hole, which they can easily get rid of because they've got money coming out of their ears. But
weren't they like 250 million in the hole, and they still bought James Rodriguez? I mean, they're always in the hole.
Yeah, but the thing is, as well, is with all this restrictions and money things, they really want David De Gea, and they probably want maybe another midfielder, possibly another defender or so. Their plan is obviously to fund this De Gea move. They've got to give somewhere. Benitez will go, look, I can sacrifice Benzema. then I can. Well, he can afford to. He can move Ronaldo as the central focal point of their attack, and then he's got Bale on one side, and he can probably play Isco or James on either side of the wing in a 3. So that's what I think they're going to do. If you look at, in a way, and I know it's quite weird to look at it this way, if you look at dispensable players at Real Madrid, if you think which one of them in that starting lineup is going to give, They're not going to really get rid of Bale. Not going to get rid of Ronaldo. Benzema is the one for me that they can get rid of.
The thing is, though, I mean, I know that Ronaldo has played up front once before. I can't remember whether it was for United or Madrid now, but he did play up front for a while and scored loads of goals. But isn't he going to get hammered for that by the fans? I mean, just sort of selling your only striker and saying, well, it's okay because we can score goals from all over the pitch. We'll just put Ronaldo up there. I mean, I can't imagine what would happen if Wenger sold, Giroud and Walcott and said, oh, it's okay because Sanchez will crop up with a few, Ramsey will put in a few, because, that just sounds mental to me.
Yeah, it's a weird one, but that's the way I see it. You never know if they do sell Benzema, and you're talking about Sergio Ramos and some others going as well. There's big talk of Royce going up there, so that's another wide player. And then you got Royce, Ronaldo, and Bale. That's threatening. That's very, very threatening.
Yeah, I suppose. People have been talking about Benzema since the beginning of the window, and I've never really understood why on earth Madrid would want to get rid of him. And people go on and on about it. It's almost as if some fans think that if the fans want him badly enough, then the transfer will happen. As if our desire
I just hope
will
we don't put
somehow
all our eggs in one basket, because literally all I keep seeing is Benzema. I'm like, if that doesn't come off, and then we have some bad results again, and then Wenger's, doing his supermarket sweep routine, and we end up with, and I'm saying this in the greatest respect, if we end up with someone like a Welbeck and all that again, basically panic buys, I ain't gonna be best pleased.
No.
I'll just leave it at that.
No, I agree with you. But, one thing we know about Madrid is that if we do anything, it'll probably be very late, because we'll be waiting for De Gea and we'll be waiting for this, and Ozil was signed about 30 seconds before the window closed, so...
Yeah, it's definitely a domino type effect. Two or three are going to have to move elsewhere before we can sort of do what we're doing.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah, it's...
I don't know how Judd feels. Judd be a bit quiet.
Well, I think Benzema would have made the save on that first goal that we left.
That's what I thought.
So,
he would have saved that.
I think we should have had him. Yeah, definitely.
He would have saved that with his laces. Somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I can see the points on either side. I don't know if he's really the answer for what we need. I think more importantly, we need to shore up the defense, get another defensive mid, get some cover for Coquelin. I think we've got enough depth and talent up top, that we could at least be competitive for the title this year. Maybe not clear-cut favorites, but I think that extra cover at DM would be more important to the squad right now, personally.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't agree with the people that think we still need a centre-back. I think we'll be fine in that department, but I think backup for Coquelin is an absolute must. I just actually got another question. We'll just do one and then probably wrap it up. From Running Sesh at Sessions Jack, he says, all right, lads, it's just one game, but did anyone have any reservations about Czech? He's won it all and been dropped by Chelsea for a reason, obviously. Is he past his best? That's taking things a bit too far.
I disagree, because Jose didn't want to sell him.
No, he didn't.
He would have been more than happy of having Czech there, and yesterday when Courtois gets sent off, if you asked Mourinho in his heart of hearts, would you rather have had Begovic come on or Czech? We all know the answer to that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Unless this is a major slow con by the mastermind Mourinho to sabotage our squad.
Infiltrate from within, yeah. No,
no, I don't think he's past it. I think it's a little premature to get concerned over one game. He might have a bit of rust just because he hasn't been playing as much. Last year he was on the bench most of the season, so it might just take a little bit of, to get back into the flow of things. That's my only concern. Keepers usually hit their peak at this age, so I don't think it's a concern to think that he's past his best. It might just be a little bit of rust right now.
Yep, I agree. Okay, so what do you reckon about Palace, James?
Nervy, but I think we'll scrape it 2-1 again.
Hope so, Judd.
Same. I think it's going to be a nervy game, but I hope thinking that we'll probably wind up getting a result.
When do we play Liverpool? We got Liverpool soon, haven't we?
I think Liverpool's the week after Palace. So.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, big game.
We better have warmed up by then, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because we're not warmed up yet, that's for sure. We're fucking all over the place.
Well, to be fair, Liverpool didn't look to be at their best today either. They did get the result, but took a moment of brilliance from Coutinho.
Yeah. Well, we were laughing at Chelsea, weren't we? We were celebrating them dropping points, and we dropped even more. So
it's all about building leads in the league, and we're on 0 at the moment. So.
Yeah. And as you mentioned before briefly, it's a bit like that time when we lost the first game to Aston Villa, and I think it was 3-0 or 3-1. And the fans went into meltdown because at that point we'd only bought Sanogo, we hadn't got Ozil yet, and everybody was so angry. And then by the end of the season we won the FA Cup, so we can't actually, we shouldn't go too knee jerk just on this one defeat. We got to look at it in context, look at the bigger picture, and I'm sure we'll sort it out.
Definitely.
Yep.
Anyway, we're off to slit our wrists, so having said all that,
I just won't get too deep. It's not that bad.
Well, Samaritans won't even answer the phone to me now. That's how bad I've got. So.
Oh, not fucking James again. Jeez. They need to call each other after they've spoken to you, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll wrap it up there. That's been the Gooner Ramble podcast. It's been most enjoyable. Don't forget to subscribe, RSS, press all those buttons that you need to press, and we'll be back next week, I must confess. Thanks for listening, and say goodbye to our listeners, especially Adnan, gentlemen.
Good night, everybody, especially Adnan.
Good night. Thanks for tuning in after that.
Nice one. Thanks a lot. Bye.